Today, I want to walk you through something bigger than just real estate. This is really about two completely different ways of thinking about value. On one side, you have the traditional model, where the expert is in control, and the process feels complicated and hard to navigate. On the other side, there's a newer model, where the consumer has more control, more choice, and more visibility into what's actually happening. This presentation is about that tension, because what we're seeing right now isn't just change, it's a full-on value war. I am Steve Colino, and this is today's Confidential Remarks. At the center of all of this is one simple idea. The consumer gets to choose, not just whether they buy or sell, but how they do it. Do they want full service? Do they want limited help? Or do they want to do most of it themselves? What used to be presented as one standard path is now a set of options, and that shift alone changes everything. Let's start with the traditional model. In this world, the agent is the expert, the guide, and also the gatekeeper. The belief is that the process is complicated, risky, and honestly, a little dangerous to go through alone. So the goal becomes managing everything for the client, protecting them, guiding every step. And success looks like getting someone safely through a complicated journey they couldn't handle by themselves. Now compare that to the newer model. Here, the consumer is not helpless. They're capable. They just need the right tools, the right information, and the right level of support. Instead of one fixed path, you give people options. You give them transparency. And most importantly, you give them control. Success here isn't about guiding someone through a maze. It's about helping them build a solution that fits exactly what they need. So this is where the clash really happens. On one side, you have the idea that the expert is essential and the process is too complex to handle alone. On the other side, you have the belief that the consumer is capable, and full service is just one option, not a requirement. One side is about protection and control. The other is about transparency and flexibility. And these aren't small differences. They're completely different identities. In the traditional model, the process is often presented like a maze. It feels confusing. It feels risky. And it feels like you could make a big mistake if you don't know what you're doing. That's where the value comes from, navigating that complexity. If it's hard to understand, it feels like you need someone to guide you. So in this world, mystery actually creates value. Now flip that idea. What if instead of a maze, you showed people exactly what's happening? What if you broke the process into simple, understandable steps? Things like pricing, marketing, paperwork, negotiation. These are all just tasks. And once people can see them clearly, they realize something important. This isn't magic. It's manageable. And that's where the value shifts, from mystery to transparency. When you break the process down into smaller pieces, something interesting happens. What used to feel complicated suddenly feels doable. What used to feel hidden becomes visible. And once people understand what's actually going on, they start asking better questions. Like, what am I really paying for? And do I need all of it? That's when the old idea of magic starts to fade. In the traditional system, pricing is bundled together. That means one fee covers everything, and no matter how much work is actually involved. And that fee is usually tied to the price of the home. So as home prices go up, the cost goes up too, even if the effort doesn't change much. That creates a disconnect between the work being done and what's being paid. Now compare that to a tiered model. Instead of one big package, services are broken into levels. You can choose full service, limited help, or do it yourself. And pricing becomes more logical. You pay for what you actually need. That gives the consumer control, not just over the process, but over the cost. This is where the problem becomes really clear. In the traditional model, costs rise with home prices, even if the actual work stays the same. But in a service-based model, cost is tied to effort. So as home values increase, the gap between those two models gets bigger and bigger. That gap is what we call the disconnect. And once people see it, it's hard to ignore. Here's where things get tense. When you give consumers more choice and more control, it changes how they see value. And for the traditional model, that can feel like a threat. Because if people start choosing only what they need, the idea of a full, bundled service starts to weaken. So this isn't just a business shift. It's a shift in power. When you combine three things, breaking down complexity, opening up access, and questioning bundled pricing. You create a direct challenge to the old system. It forces a comparison that didn't really exist before. And once that comparison is visible, people start rethinking what they've always accepted. The reaction to this change isn't personal. It's natural. Any system will try to protect itself when it feels threatened. And that's exactly what's happening here. The traditional model was built around being necessary. So when the conversation shifts to choice, the system pushes back. Not because it's wrong, but because it's trying to survive. Disruption almost always feels uncomfortable, especially to the people being disrupted. It can look like disrespect. It can feel like something is being taken away. But what's really happening is a shift toward something more open, more transparent, and more aligned with what people actually want. Because at the end of the day, the future belongs to transparency. This has been Confidential Remarks.